Okay.
Jason, are you managing the Zoom?
No.
Is Pat?
Pat is, and there's a number of people, everybody else is in person. I think that all of us on the screen are remote, but everybody else is going to be in person.
Understood.
Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6:30 p.m. Welcome to the January 15th meeting of the Financial Planning Committee. I'm John Rappa, the chair. This meeting will be held in person at this location. Members of the public are welcome to attend in person, while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public. The meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological issues interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Start with a roll call. Ken Picard.
Present.
Ryan Maines.
Present.
Mike Shaka.
Present.
Scott Stockland.
Present.
And John Rappa, present. We have a quorum. Good. First order of business, approval of meeting minutes from December 16th. Do I have a motion to?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 16th as submitted.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Passed. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda, the Z School roof project. Tom, are you going to lead off on this, or Keith?
John, why don't I take the lead, and then I'll turn it right over to Tom, who will be presenting a few slides this evening.
Thank you. By the way, we
First,
have.
I want to thank the committee for welcoming us back to provide more detail on the Z School roof project. Tonight, I'm joined by Tom Ellis from JLL. He's operating as our owner project manager. And our architect, Steve Watchhorn from Raymond Design Associates. We've been teamed together since June to really investigate all the options for the Z roof, and they've worked hard to get us to where we are now, and which is in a position of proposing a project to the MSBA. So we're still waiting on their approval. That meeting is not going to happen until February, but they are absolutely willing to answer as many questions as the committee may have of what brought us to this point, especially the cost estimates associated with this project. They have the expertise behind it, and I look forward for them to have the opportunity to share what they learned about the Z School with you and what project is being proposed. So, Tom, if you are ready, I can turn it over to you for the presentation.
Sure. Okay.
Gentlemen, I know you have a hard stop at 7 p.m., so we're trying to be efficient with the use of time. But
Okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
thank
we
you
have,
for
John?
joining us
Sorry.
tonight. Go ahead.
Keith asked how much time we had.
How much time do we have?
Till 7, we've got just under half an hour.
Keith, we had thought people had to get off at 7, but like you guys can go as long as you're available. I mean, as people are
Understood, okay.
available.
Understood. Thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you.
Is this, so you can see my screen now?
Yes, it's come up.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, as Keith indicated, I'm Tom Ellis. I'm the owner's project manager for this project and working together with Raymond Design Associates. And I won't repeat what Keith has said, but we spent a fair amount of time looking at various options and have spent a lot of time trying to come up with the most cost-effective solution for this project. And we've gone through a couple of iterations to do that. So, so we've got a couple of aerials just for those to remind you kind of the overall project scope. It's got multiple surfaces, flat, pitched roofs of varying degrees. So let's see. So let's see next. There we go. So just a little closer view of this. We've got a couple areas where we have pitched roofs. We've investigated looking at different materials on those pitched roofs versus the flat as well. So in the resolution, we've come up with materials that we think are the most cost effective. Let's see, sorry, flip to back. So we've got a roof plan here, which kind of is the starting point for most of the construction documents that will be there, showing the overall kind of relationship of the different roof areas. But what we're here tonight to talk about is actually the overall cost that we've assessed at this point in time. At this point, we've gone through the feasibility study, submitted in December the schematic cost feasibility program to the MSBA. In December, they're in the process of reviewing all the information, which includes what they call the Form 3011, which is their format for their budget. And that's how we've extracted the numbers from that budget to present tonight. Again, the MSBA will we'll probably have a work session here in the next couple of weeks prior to the board meeting in February to kind of review all the numbers and respond to any questions that they may have. But at this time, we've broken it down into into the budget format, which is the feasibility study, which was initially $100,000, and we're into that. I've taken the money from that feasibility study and spread it into the soft cost for the budget. So this is the full total budget we have. Right now, we're looking at a total project budget of $5.6 million, including all the contingencies. The project budget for the construction and hard and soft cost is $5.36 million at this point. So we've broken down the way the budget is with soft cost, which is the owner project managers and the architecture and engineering fees. And then the construction cost, which does include some ADA upgrades, which are required once we start hitting a certain dollar thresholds in the construction cost. There are certain requirements that kick in from the building code. One good thing is the MSBA considers those costs as well as preparing the roof to be solar ready as eligible costs for reimbursement. So those costs are fully reimbursable to the extent of your grant reimbursement rate. And then we've established construction contingencies and owner contingencies for the project. If those are not used, those are not needed to complete the project and don't become part of your official loan amount that you take out for the for your ultimate debt service. So right now we've included a 5% construction contingency, which at this point eligible costs that are eligible for reimbursement within that 5% cost. We've added a little bit more on the owner contingency, but 0.5% is eligible for reimbursement for eligible cost to the extent something would happen. Again, like I said, if those contingencies are not used, it just reduces the total project cost at the end that is required, less your MSBA reimbursement to ultimately come up with your total debt service over the life of the project funding.
Okay. Tom, if I can interject with a couple of quick questions on this slide. So you mentioned that the construction costs are approximately $4.5 million, but that's inclusive of the roof as well as the ADA upgrades as well as the solar ready costs. Is there a breakdown that you can provide that's, segmenting the roof costs, the solar ready portion, whatever required upgrades and what they are, what those costs are, so that we can understand the pieces and parts that make up that $4.5 million?
Yes, that will be on the next slide.
Okay, great. And then the other question I have is, you mentioned that there's a trigger for the ADA upgrades based on spending a certain dollar amount, if I heard that correctly. That because we're hitting a certain threshold, it's going to trigger that requirement. So I'm curious, what is that trigger? At what dollar amount are we hitting that requirement to have to do those upgrades?
I may let Steve from the design team respond to that, but there are a couple triggers for different types of requirements. In theory, it's 30% of the assessed value of the building, which is one of the thresholds. So at this stage, Steve, I don't know if you're there, you can maybe talk a little bit more about where the threshold is and what the ADA upgrades would consist of.
Yeah, that's correct, Tom, what you indicated. We are tripping the 30% threshold value of the assessed value of the building.
What is the assessed value?
Yes.
What is the assessed value, Tom? Do you have that?
I'd have to pull that up. While you're talking, I'll see if I can find that.
I seem to remember it might be somewhere around 9 or 10 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Steve, that's my understanding as well. I'll try to pull out the property card as well.
I think it's about 8.2, Steve.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
So that's essentially the trigger. There are some smaller triggers, but we're hitting the big one, which is bringing the full building up to accessible guidelines, Mass Architectural Access Board, because it's a public building.
Yeah. I
Well,
think originally we had estimated those, again, I haven't looked at the detailed backup on the most current updated estimate, but it was like $350,000 or something like that, I think, Steve. Is that a correct number?
Yeah, I think the final number is around 400,000.
Okay.
But it's
Order
started
of
with that.
magnitude, right.
Yep.
what was that? I didn't catch what that 400,000 was for.
ADA.
For the ADA stuff, that's the breakout of that. So, I didn't, was it, Stephen? You had mentioned that there might be some smaller triggers outside of the 2.5 million spend. What would be the smaller triggers? I guess I'd like to know, what the smallest amount of money, or what the lowest point of trigger is for the project. If
I mean,
there's,
if you're spending even just $100 or is it $150,000 on a public building, you need to make sure that it's accessible, the entrance is accessible, and there's an accessible bathroom and drinking fountain. So we're far exceeding those smaller triggers. So we'll be addressing those smaller items as well as the larger ones.
so Z School, I believe Z School is handicap accessible at the current state, isn't it?
It was designed, the addition renovation in the 90s brought it up to the current code at the time. We would be required to bring those items up to code, the current code, which is more stringent.
So the $150,000 amount, we currently do not have ADA standards that meet that? Those?
No, I was speaking in generality.
Okay, yeah, but I get, so what I'm trying to get to is, I want to understand what we absolutely have to do at what point, as simple as that, because if it's 2.5 million, that's one bar. If it's 150,000, that's a very different bar. And I mean, my kids all went to Z, and I'm pretty sure that they have currently some elements of ADA accessibility, and they also have, I believe, if it's a single fountain or a single bathroom, I believe we could put a check in those boxes as well. So I'm trying to understand what the triggers are that's going to cause us to have to do these things.
I think we're over, as Steve said, we're over the minimum trigger. And, it's basically a full code assessment by the code consultant to basically say, this is where you're deficient, and, it's required to be done as part of this project. So
Yep.
there really is no, area to reduce back or what we're doing the minimum amount that's required by code to move the project along. So I think that, if that answers your question.
That's if, that would be if we were moving forward as is presented. However, if we were able to find a remedy that was south of 2.5 million, it sounds like we wouldn't have those other obligations. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
Right, yeah. Right now, the only thing that I could see in the future, and this would be way off, the state is looking at possibly changing the threshold triggers for roof-only projects. That is in discussion, but you know how long it takes for code revisions and legislatures to work. We cannot assume that could happen. So we're moving forward, and that is a possibility if something could happen in the next year as we move forward. But I'd say the probability of that happening is slow.
Well, again, that's fine, but what that means is that we're just going with the status quo of what's being presented. It doesn't change, it doesn't address the question that I have, which is, I want to know what the triggers are at the lowest possible point where we would be affected. And if it's 2.5, then we can take that data and we can understand it and we can opine based on that. If it's 100,000, then we can opine on that. So we just need the facts.
Yeah.
Tom,
Well, I
what's the
think
square-
Stephen had
what's
said,
the square
I
footage of
think
the
we're-
roof?
Or Mark had said, I think we're looking at about $400,000 in cost directly for the ADA upgrade components.
Tom, what's the square footage of the roof?
The roof is about just under 60,000 square feet.
60K? Thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, just to follow up on Mike's question, I think all we're looking for is just a decision tree. At like this spend, you need to put this much into ADA upgrades. At this spend, you need to do this. Like, we're not talking about this specific project. We're talking about the regulation across the state for any project. Like, if we're gonna add a pencil sharpener, I don't even know if kids still use those, into the school, what does that mean? Do we need to spend $10,000 on an ADA upgrade, or is it, like, just spend to requirement, just a list? We don't need it to be project-specific.
We can give you that information, but I think what has been
I do, we
discussed
use
here is
pencils.
accurate. So, 30% of the assessed value, if it's 2.5, we cannot bring a roof replacement project down below 2.5%, yeah, $2.5 million on this project. So that really is the trigger, whatever that number is. I'm just using 2.5, but somewhere around there, 30% of the assessed value.
Okay.
And all of the work in that 400,000 accessible upgrades, that is within that. Mark, can you just clarify for the committee here that none of the accessible work that we're recommending includes the public entrance toilet or drinking fountain? I think it's other stuff.
Yes, the drinking fountains are fine, the public entrance is fine. So, and it's one of the bathrooms that doesn't comply. It's the girls' bathroom that the accessible stall is not accessible. So, when we have to go into full compliance, we did do a comprehensive survey on each of the items, but the majority of the items happen in the original school building that was constructed in the 1950s. Where classroom doors are kind of recessed in and you lose the pull side of the door requirements required by MAAB. So we're going to re-swing and reframe those doors into the classroom so they swing into the classroom. That happens in 12 classrooms. There are 2 exits off of corridors that we have to provide areas of refuge for 2 persons in a wheelchair. Because you can't have direct access to grade from those locations. That's going to require that we replace the existing doors out to those areas. And then we're going to have to modify the platforms slightly. Let's
So
see
all the
what
stuff
else.
you're describing, Mark, is just outside of the $150,000 trigger.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Tom, you said you got breakdowns on this on the next slide. Can we start to look at that?
Sure. Yeah, this is the breakdown of the 3011 budget in terms of the trade divisions where the costs are broken down into. So you can kind of see from the area here, the primary cost is in the thermal and moisture protection, which is the roofing and the insulation. As Mark just mentioned, there's some openings, requirements and finishes in here, in woods and plastics in here, 140,000, plus other requirements of doors in there. There's some plumbing requirements there, like you said, for the bathroom. And then there's electrical work. So that's the primary area. There's masonry work up on the roof, the parapet areas. So that's kind of the general distribution of where most of the money is following up in terms of where it's going on the project.
Are there active leaks in the school?
Yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
Okay, how many, how aggressive? When we were originally presented this, I didn't see any pictures of that. So I guess I'm unclear of what the problems are, where the leaks are, what the current condition actually is.
Well, I could, if you like, I could bring up, we did some infrared scanning of the roofs and basically came up with about 2% of the roof has wet insulation, so that's where the leaks would be.
Okay, so there,
Okay, Mark, what's the current status of the life of the roof? You know, how many years it's in
So-
excess of 28 or whatever?
Yeah, so basically it's about 28 years old, which would put the flat roofs, the EPDM, about 10 years past its serviceable life, and then the asphalt shingled roof about 5 years past.
Right.
okay, so this, it's what I heard as far as the leaks, it sounds like there's some pinhole leaks that are in the membrane, and it's seeping into the insulation that's underneath that. Is it to the degree that it's actually penetrating into the school where you're seeing leaks, ceiling tiles, stains, et cetera? Puddles?
Yes, there are locations within the school where ceiling tiles are staining.
Mark, would one option be to consider repairing the roof? I mean, notwithstanding its age, but
Well, I believe that's the option that they've been doing for the last couple of years. You just go up and react to whatever leak is occurring, but I mean, of course, that's an option to keep, as these leaks keep occurring, but it's gonna be happening more rapid succession than it is now. Because the roof, the membrane is starting to tear away from the perimeter of the roof.
And I would say, Mark, that was exactly what I was going to say. We're starting to see the decompensation of the flat portions where they are pulling away from the edge, especially, and in particular seams. This is also a stone ballasted roof where there are rocks on top of the roof that's holding down the EPDM. Those over time are eroding and becoming sharp with edges. So as you know, things move, things shift, or if we get a windstorm at times, sometimes those ballasts are then creating additional holes that we have to monitor. And Mark, if you're able to bring up that infrared, you will definitely see where the drainage is compromised on those flat portions, and you could actually see it as part of Tom's one of his first slides there, that there are definitely draining issues that are contributing, to the, how compromised the roof is. So I would say at present, there are about 5 roof leak in areas that we monitor pretty closely. Every storm is a little different. We had to do a significant repair, I think it was 2 springs ago, where parts of the old building met the new, and you can see where that kind of decompensated. And it came down right on the side of the cafeteria and was very disruptive to the school. So we've definitely had our shares of roof leaks there. We have tried to repair them as we go, but from our roofing consultant that worked on with us over the past few years, as well as the work that this team has done, that's not the recommendation that's being made to move us forward.
So Tom, you guys assessed this project and you had 3 options: a roof restoration, a roof recovery, or a full roof replacement. And it looks like you're proposing the roof recovery. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
Did you say roof recovery or roof replacement?
Restoration, roof recovery, full roof replacement.
Okay, what would be the difference between the full roof?
Couple $1 million
So-
X
so-
on
no,
top
but
of this.
So what would they be taking off? Would they?
Well, I gave you guys a summary, but I'll just read it here. The restoration involves applying a liquid coating over the existing roof. They ruled it out because of the loose ballast, making restoration infeasible. The recovery would entail removal of the ballast, the membrane shingles, and the underlayment. New underlayment, plywood sheathing, brickwork, new shingles would be installed. The roof recovery would be the most cost-effective, would provide a 30-year lifespan. The full roof replacement would be significant construction to this with a full metal roof to add over $9 million.
Yeah, so.
is that how we got from 8 to 5.6?
I believe,
Yes.
that's the short answer, I think, Scott, yeah.
Okay. Well, Keith, thank you for that. I mean, I think, you know, as you're probably aware, I think the town has tough choices to make, right? We just, and maybe, Tom, for you, your background, we invested $40 million in a fire station. This is coming this year, and then shortly on the heels of this will be a new school, which is projected to be, I think, at least as expensive as the fire station, and maybe even twice as expensive as the fire station. So I think this town is going to be wrestling with some very tough choices in terms of spending money. So that's the basis, I think, of a lot of our questions.
Yep.
Absolutely, and that's understood, and that's one of the reasons why we had the team pivot away from a replacement and go towards the recovery. And we are preserving as much as we can that it has been in good standing, but doing the things that we need to do to make sure that not only we just are taking care of what is compromised, but also making sure that we do get the quality out of this that will, you know, sustain us for 20 plus years, up to 30, if all goes well. So we definitely kept that in mind as the fall progressed, and certainly as the meetings progressed, that was at the forefront of our conversation. And I do appreciate the team, Mark and Steve, did dive into those options based on the direction that was given by Greg and myself. And this project that we're at now is a combination of all those efforts.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Yeah, I do, through the chair. Keith, I guess one of the things I'm finding a little frustrating is that we were told initially it was a roof replacement, but we have other components in the project. I think we got to change the title of the project. It's not a roof replacement. You got roof recovery, you got ADA compliance, and you got solar ready, right? So I think we got to be transparent with all the components. And if there's other components, we got to know what those are too.
I think that's fair. I think there's absolutely some wordsmithing we can do as we move closer. That would be bring clarity to what is being proposed and why, and how we got to where we did. So I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, because I think your $5.5 million, it doesn't add up for a roof replacement. So you need to justify, you have other costs in there, and let the public know what it is.
Good
Okay,
point. Good point.
that's it, I'm done.
Anything else? Good. Tom or Keith, can you send this detail to us? Send it to Jason, he'll distribute it to us so we can digest it further.
One more thing, I think, going back to what Mike's comment is, if we can get an executive summary of the ADA triggers, right? I'm sure the state has that in their standards of what it is. Send that to the committee so we understand what all the triggers are. And then we can also get that into our report, so the general public will know why ADA compliance money is being spent.
Yeah, and I'll just reaffirm that the requirement for MSBA funding is that in fact, like that the roof is solar ready, and so it's one of the requirements that they have for funding. And also too, they realize that the building code does trigger the ADA/MAAB requirements for accessibility, and that's why they include that as a reimbursable cost, because they know those two components go with a current roof project as the current law is.
So I clearly understand that. I was involved in a hospital renovation, and we got done the renovation, and then we had to do the ADA compliance. We got caught afterwards. So I thoroughly understand that, but for the other board members, for the community, we need to explain that clearly, so nobody feels like they're getting something thrown over their head, and it's a hidden cost.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Understood.
Okay. I'll PDF this and get this presentation over to you.
Thank you.
Just really quick, one more request on that too. So MSB requires that you do solar ready. Could you just like specifically call out all those costs and make it obvious? Because it's like if we're spending $1 million to get back 2.6, I think that makes it a lot easier for everyone to digest, right? There's like an ROI on that almost.
Good point.
Okay.
So I think this question is, well, I guess it's for all of you. So the last time you presented with Greg and Keith, we had talked about the MSBA program and being part of that. And some of the questions were, what if we chose to get bids outside of that so that we didn't have to necessarily look just at this small pool of individuals to do it, or entities to do it? The answer at the time was that I think that there would have to be a whole new study and some other elements. And I guess I guess I struggled with that answer because, I know we spent a tremendous amount of money on the design and study, or rather, design study. And I guess I can't understand why the work product that we already have in place couldn't be leveraged to get bids from entities outside of this program.
Yeah, no, I can take that. So one of the things that's important to understand is that this is the feasibility part of the program, and based on what the design that RDA did with the support of Tom in getting to this project is now bringing in the cost estimate, to which is what is reflected in what Tom just shared. If this moves forward, then it would go out to a full public bid process. And it is possible that during that process and all of the different disciplines involved, that price could come down, for the town, and that would be reflected in the bottom line, which ultimately would have to be part of the debt service. So this is, the best thinking as of today, knowing we'd be able to do a project hopefully in the next 18 to 24 months, but it would have to go through a full procurement, which would be a competitive bid, which would hopefully bring the overall cost down. And that would certainly we would keep the community updated on.
So it would be the broader pool that could otherwise be had. It's not just a subset of that participates in this program. Okay.
That is
Similar to the
correct.
fire
The
station.
only thing that was assigned to
Public
us
bid.
by way
We
of the
had 6
MSBA
bidders for
was
fire
the
station.
OPM and our designers. That was the only part of this that the MSBA directed and gave to us. And then once this part is complete, then, the remainder of the construction would be part of an open bid.
So another question I have is, I don't believe that there's anything that would prohibit us recognizing the efforts that went into this feasibility study and the design costs for us to, I suppose, say, well, okay, we recognize what the requirements are, but instead of 5.6 million, we're willing to put it out to bid at, 3.6 million. And if nobody bites on it, then we punt and we deal with it next year. If somebody grabs it, like they did with the fire station when we were at, not the fire station, the police station, when we were at, 570,000 for a paint job, and we lowered it to 250, and all of a sudden, we had people willing to do it. I don't know. I think, coming in at a lower number, if that was something, because right now, this is a no vote for me. But I think if we were to come in at a lower number, and we put it out and let the competitive juices run, then I could see it differently, but not at this number.
The police station paint project, the town approved a large number, and the vendor came in less than that. The fire station was approved at 41.3 million. They got 6 bids. The general contractor came in 6.5 million less than that.
With the police station, the initial request was, I think,
570.
Yeah, 570. And then that was amended, and it was decreased down to 240 or something. And
The article was 540 and it got cut in half to 270, and that's what the
yeah, and miraculously,
also reappropriated the 70 originally appropriated for painting.
miraculously, it was still frothy for somebody.
Yeah, good.
So that's my 2 cents and my candor to you.
Good. Keith, Tom, and company, thank you very much. We look forward to getting the backup on this, and our committee will discuss and digest this further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good evening.
Next item on the agenda. Steph, do you have any update on White Cliffs?
Yes, actually, Jason and I met with Rich Correa today they're putting together, we're actually having a meeting with their attorney, our attorney, Jason, myself, and we're going through the wording to put into the agreement and also attach the historic preservation language. So it's coming together. We have an executive session planned with the Board of Selectmen next Wednesday. So we'll get closer, but it still is in a lease scenario and with the option to purchase.
And is the option to purchase still at the end of the 10th year, or is it different?
I think it's going to be a little less, probably around the 7-8 year mark.
Okay, all right. So when we ultimately get to a proposed warrant article, it's for the lease, and then the historical designation, would those be the two articles we'd be looking at?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do to be able to make the April town meeting, we're going to be making the agreement contingent upon historic restriction language. So it could be hopefully at a later time, but within the agreement, state the specifics of what it would have to, the restriction would have to contain. We're working on the holder right now. We have Albert Rex, we have hired to actually write the restriction. So that's great. He's also helping Elegant Banquets with federal and state tax credits. And since they're going for the federal tax credits, that would actually put the White Cliffs on the registry, which is, I think, a much more, I guess, in preservation, in the eyes of preservation, that's the top of the line. So you want to make sure that you have the restriction in place. You want to make sure, the tax credits are being used because you're doing so much preservation in the building. And if it's on the National Registry, then that's the creme de la creme. So I think the constituents would be happy about that.
So we had conversations between the select board and even within this committee about the exercising the option at the end of what was proposed to be the 10th year, and a residual value of the building then. And there was a discussion of, what would that be? What would it look like? How would we calculate that? Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, so with that, let's just say it's looking more like the town's upside down when we take into account the environmental cleanup. So that's what we're trying to make, strategic plans with what they do up front, which the town should be doing is the cleanup. So if they're putting X amount of dollars into the cleanup, what can the town do to help them out to alleviate that burden and still make it fair? So we're looking into a few different scenarios such as TIFs, and getting them to a point that they're above water and they can be sustainable, and at the same time, the town recouping the monies that they invested into the property.
It seems that if there's a concern of being upside down and that the costs of dealing with issues that have come up put the purchase price at the option at a place that some don't feel is reasonable, what would prohibit us to just stick with the original plan, which was just maintain a lease, and at the end of the day, if they decide they want to purchase it, we come up with a number at that time.
That's what we're trying to massage into the numbers, the agreement to make it work for both parties. So it's fair on both sides, because usually a seller has to clean a property before they can sell it. So it's the onus is on the town. They will be putting in those expenses, so we're trying to make it an equitable transaction, so both parties it's a win-win for both parties.
Sure. Well, my fear is I've been in enough negotiations where there's, the sky is falling, apocalyptic, concerns as a negotiating tactic relative to what that ultimate purchase price is. And if that's the case, I think that waiting and punting that purchase price down the road and just sticking with the lease model is very favorable for them. So, I think that's where, the rubber meets the road. If they're uncomfortable with that, then that's a telltale sign in my eyes that, that they're trying to get a purchase price that is inequitable to the taxpayers. And that we probably shouldn't be negotiating that price. If they're,
We're pretty sure on the values of the building as it stands, and we're pretty sure on the amount of work and monetary costs that it would take to just bring it up to a building that's structurally sound, never mind the cost of the actual preservation. So we're finding out a lot more in preservation costs from the ground up, from the exterior of the building to the interior of the building. So with that said, yeah, we're taking everything into account, and I think we're at a point right now that it's looking really good for both parties.
Kind of quick question too on the funding here. So if we sell it, it goes back to the CPA funds, right? But if we lease it, it goes into our operating?
Correct.
We should do a 100-year lease. No, like, seriously.
They were talking to 40 to start. It's like none of us are going to be around.
The problem with that is that would be attractive if we were getting a rate of lease that was market rates. We're not getting market rates. That's why I'm saying is that this deal, the way it's structured, is silly. I mean, give them the 40-year lease. That's fine. Give them the 40-year lease. Let them recover all the investments that they put into it, and we'll give them that lease for a song. I mean, the amount that they're paying is peanuts. It's nothing. At the end of that, though, we get the fruits. But if we're going to give them a lease that's for a song, and then at the end of 8 years, 10 years, sell it to them for at or less what we put into it, it's a sucker's bet. It's horrible. It's a horrible deal. So what we need to do is we need to either say, hey, take the lease, which is extraordinarily attractive. You have it for 40 years. And if anytime you want to buy it along the way, we don't want to be in the real estate business. We'll sell it to you for a price that's mutually agreed upon. And there's no risk to them, because they can either have a wonderful lease, and then if they decide that they want to buy it, they can marry it. They can have the milk for free for 40 years, and then we get the cow at the end.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, we're beyond that.
Well, not yet.
Definitely.
We shouldn't be.
Trust me when I say we've gone through a million different scenarios. There's, legal scenarios that we have to get through. There's the preservation scenarios. So I think we're at a good point right now. For people that are putting in $2 million to clean it up, $8 to $10 million for preservation, no matter how much they make, they're the investor, and at the end of the day, they do want to purchase it.
you're right, it would be better as operating monies. Yeah, 100%.
What is the lease amount? Just that, was it 13?
It maxes out at about 35 grand a year.
As was proposed,
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah, that's-
So
yeah, that's-
I don't know what's going to come back to the
Yeah,
table.
yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
so-
If that's changed, I don't know,
3,000
but
a
it's,
month, roughly.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's nothing.
and then there's other revenue to the town associated with that relative to
Swampland rents
meals
for
and
more
other
than
things
that.
like But yeah, yeah. So there's more detail that we're going to want to see as soon as possible, because there's a lot to digest. How do you eat the cow a bite at a time?
Yeah, I think we'll have a better idea when we meet next Wednesday with the select board, and Jason, when we meet with the attorneys, which is, when is that? That is,
I think it's next Wednesday.
perfect. So next
I
Monday.
think that's
for
the date
both,
that
right?
ended up on the calendar.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we didn't really talk about it, but the taxes are something to talk about that, it's going to be taxable once they take ownership or take control of the property. So right now we're collecting $0 in the general fund for taxes, and it's going to be whatever they put into it is going to be taxable. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
There's tax and lease money, though. Just think about it.
Yeah, so again, that is a loophole that the town understandably can, I mean, the CPA purchased the property. The CPA, if it's sold to another parcel, to another party, the money would have to go back to the CPA. The lease money in the meantime goes to the general fund, but that's just a kind of an obscure kind of arrangement.
And we would start collecting tax revenue when they exercise the option.
Correct, depending on it, whether there's a TIF or not, to make the deal work.
Yeah, okay. And just ballpark,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
there will
like-
be taxes on it, and the taxes will be, I mean, once we entice them to put $7 to $8 million of investment in, we'll be collecting taxes on that as well.
Okay. And I'm thinking just ballpark, if the property hypothetically is assessed at, I don't know, $10 million, that could potentially.
Eventually, it may be assessed at that. Right now, it's assessed at, I believe, like $1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5.
I'm saying 10 years down the road, after all the improvements are made and it's beautiful and wonderfully landscaped and all of that, that could be like, what, a couple $100,000 maybe in tax revenue?
Correct, yeah,
to the
yes.
town annually.
And that's just taxes,
We're
that's not the
anticipating.
other
Just
revenue
taxes.
streams. Yeah.
Right. Would we still get the other revenue streams even after they purchase, or is that only during the lease?
We would get
Tax.
the real property taxes, personal property taxes. We would get meals taxes, which is huge because that's what they do.
Yeah.
Is that it, Jason? Did I
Oh,
miss it?
yeah, I mean, we would get the property taxes, we would get and the meals taxes, I mean, that would not be insignificant either.
And Scott, just to, I guess, a level set here, I don't know if you've paid attention to any of the select board meetings regarding tax rates and industrial rates. So before you start to get excited that this is going to be assessed for $12 million, or there's been assessments, that's been one of the concerns, is that commercial industrial properties are assessed significantly under fair market value
Yeah.
in the town. So this thing could be assessed at $3 million. So we don't, we don't know where that's going to land. Just because they put 12 million into it doesn't mean it's going to be assessed for 12.
No, understood, but when a property changes hands, does that not automatically trigger a reassessment?
Yep.
Not in the commercial world, not in the commercial and industrial.
Okay.
That's been the big
No,
problem.
Not in residential either, that's not how it works. I mean,
Okay.
The assessor has to have defensible values, and the state certifies our values. They looked at them, and, our fair market value compared to the sales came out at being somewhere between 94 and 98%. So
Okay.
I think there's been a lot of attention paid to that, whether there's a split rate that's put into place in the future. I mean, that would just be, it would be a parcel that would be subject to the split rate. So that would be even more taxable income for the
Okay.
town if the town went in that
All right.
direction.
Good, so we'll wait to hear more from Steph and company on this.
Yep, definitely. So after next week, we should know a lot more.
All right, good. Because our next meeting is in a few weeks on, I believe, the 5th. So in anticipation of that, we should have more meat to chew on here. The next thing on item 3 of the agenda is updates from prior presentations. So we had requested, and we got more backup detail behind requests from the police, the fire, and DPW departments, and those are in the handouts here. There's a few things, and CPC also, there's a few things that were kicked down as a result of discussion. So for example, the CPC discussion last week kicked the Blake Street project down to 783.9, and the Melican Ball Field down to 254. So people are sharpening the pencils, which is good. And I think DPW had 30K in for a heater in the garage, and they've taken it off the capital schedule. So we all have that detail here. I mean, I've gone through what was sent out, you know, have the copy again. And as we get into our report and the articles, you know, what backup do we have in there that we're comfortable with, is my question, I guess. Any insights, et cetera? So if you haven't done so, please take a look through these again, because in some cases, we've got estimates from police, fire, and DPW on equipment and various things, so that's all in there. Finance update, Jason, you provided us with a spreadsheet here, fiscal 29 capital budget as of January 9th. That's in our packet tonight.
Yeah, that's been updated to the one that's dated January 15th.
It is,
I think
okay.
that should be
I've got last
in the
week's, okay.
packet on your desk there.
Okay.
There's a number of minor changes that happened to it. I think you navigated some of them. Foremost, I think, you know, this was covered through one of the updates previously, but they upgraded the vehicle that they were going to be seeking for the fire vehicle, so that increased about $10,000 through the process, but that's not new this cycle. But they took the recommendation about the you know, I think Ryan pointed out that the vehicle's likely going to be underpowered if they put water in the tank.
350 versus 450 or 450
they
versus
upgraded
550,
that,
yeah. You went up
that
a
proposal.
group.
The police have been relatively unchanged. The town facilities, I think there's an entire packet of, in the packet on your desk, there's, I think, 22 pages or so of quotes from Public Works related to their requests. And we met with Scott over the, you know, there's a suggested change that was to take the van out of the facilities van out of the capital plan, and doing the work trying to get the estimate of what it would take to reallocate that. It was discovered it would take $24,000 to replace the engine of the 2012 vehicle that was going to be replaced through his requests. And then we met with him, and it just didn't seem like that was a wise use of taxpayer money to do a repair to a vehicle that has rot and it has been used as a plowing vehicle for years.
Just
To put
really quick,
$24,000 into that.
I thought we talked
And they
about-
put it up on the lift, and it does have strong sign of corrosion underneath, so.
I thought we were agreeing to scrap.
Suffice
the
it to
plow.
say, the $100,000 is back into the plan, but net savings, we did take out the 30 for the heaters.
Jason, I thought we were gonna go with one of the other 350s they had there, because right now, the employee's currently using one of the various other
Right,
trucks.
so the plan was there's an
12 now.
$185,000 F-350 in the plan. And the plan was to pass that down to replace the 2012 vehicle and get the facilities van. So then the idea had been to take that 2019 350, put a cap on it, and use it like it was a facilities van instead. And then we'd still have to use the 2012 truck for plowing. So that was like kind of an impractical plan that once we looked further into it.
So, just out of curiosity, do we have a list of all the vehicles and all the employees? Because I feel like when I went through the list that we almost had like 2 vehicles for every employee there, so I don't know.
There's an equipment inventory.
Yeah.
There's
It
a
was
fleet list that's
distributed.
been in the
No,
packet.
I know, I need to look
Prior
at it again,
meetings.
but I'm just, it isn't really making sense to me, because if we're adding a net new vehicle, then we need to add another net new vehicle. We're taking one out, I feel like +1, -1, we're at zero, so someone still has a car to drive. Like with the
Yeah, so
new dual wheel.
the issue was that we started a facilities department, and they've just been using this whatever spare truck was in there, and that was the reason for the request to begin with for the $100,000 facilities van. So yeah, it is a net plus one of a vehicle.
Yeah.
I just need to try to.
While
work my way around that, so,
while
yeah,
you're
like-
thinking about that, I'll ask. So, regarding that van, I don't think that the repair option makes sense, to put $30,000 into that vehicle. I agree with that. However, the van, I really struggle. I recognize with a police or fire vehicle, they're critical emergency vehicles. They need to be in top condition. Zero failure. But a van for a facilities manager doesn't, go to that same level of criticality. And, I just think, especially when I drive past, well, Ken, I don't know if you take the turn before Wegmans, if you keep going straight, there's about a dozen white vans that are sitting there, and they're all outfitted with, they've got, I don't know if they were old, utility, Verizon, whatever. They've got, you could see that inside, they've got all the tool things,
Shelving.
the shelving,
Shelving.
yeah, whatever is inside of there. And now, listen, I don't know if that's outfitted correctly, but regardless, I mean, to purchase a van that's, a couple of years old, 2-3 years old, it's already outfitted, pick it up for 20 grand, if occasionally it has an issue, so be it. I mean, I don't see buying a van for $100,000 makes any sense. So I don't know if we've looked at used options.
Yeah, I doubt we've looked at used options.
I'm with you, Mike.
Can we bring that back to Scott? Jason,
I can ask him that, yeah.
could you please? Yep.
I'm not aware of there being a large amount of used options.
Yeah, and I think as
but-
Ken said, I don't recall in the last 6 years that we bought anything used
Yeah,
in terms of
we
any kind of.
Well, I think it depends on the
Except for-
operation,
Well, yeah.
right?
You wouldn't buy a used police car.
haven't. We've bought
Or
vehicles
even
from
a
other
dump
towns.
truck
Yeah,
that
we
is plowing
did.
in Maine, but
We did purchase an ambulance, but
driving
that's about
around
it.
town with some tools in it, when I had my crew, I always bought used.
Yeah,
Bought used.
I've bought one new vehicle my entire life, that's it.
Not zero. Never bought a new car.
Yeah, I bought one, only because the used one was more expensive than the new, they were running some crazy deal.
So we got to look in closer detail at all of these, certainly more detail coming back at us on the Z project, and then the respective departments' capital requests.
Yeah. Are we gonna, or is it meant, John, for us to review this and speak to these items in the packet, or was this just for us to review
Well,
and speak?
this is the backup behind the proposed ask,
Okay.
number one. So,
Yeah, so I mean, I've looked through it, I have a few questions, I haven't looked through it as intensely as I probably
Yeah.
would, but I don't know what the right time to dissect and ask secondary questions
I'm
would
going to
be.
jump ahead for a minute. I have drafted a report, and it's a couple items down on the agenda, and I thought when we get to this, we would get into breaking things apart, but well, let's just cover Jason's thing first, and we'll
Sure.
come back to this in a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Finance update, anything new, Jason, besides what you have on this one pager?
No, I just I navigated what has changed in this as we move to this. As we go through this and begin to prepare a report, this plan comes together with, I'm assuming that we're going to propose the Z roof, whatever the cost ends up being, as being a debt article, but on top of that, suggesting it should be a debt exclusion ballot question as well. And in addition to the available free cash that we have to fund this plan, approximately 1.3 million is the shortfall. So as we crafted the plan last year with the debt with a debt authorization for the shortfall, the 1.3 million, would be applied to this Assabet Hill project. And that's where we would target that. So, potentially, we need to do an updated debt model that will show projected debt over the life of this CIP, because there's approximately somewhere between 30 and 45 million dollars of debt related to this, above this assumed $2 million that we'd use per year from free cash toward the plan. So I need to put that together. We projected it out at the summit over the summer, but some things have changed since then, namely the Peasley School estimates. The project, there's a big wide range for that, but if you take using the Neary School in Southborough as a guiding principle, that was somewhere in the $120 million range, and the net of the MSB aid would leave that at being $70 million, being the town's burden for that. So over 30 years, are we going to be over our debt model for 10% of the operating budget? And I don't have those numbers yet, but I'm putting them together. They were narrowly fitting together before the numbers escalated somewhat. So, we will need to look at that as part of the report. So that part is not ready yet.
Do you have a sense, Jason, how much room we have or how close we are in terms of debt before we jeopardize our rating?
The debt limit is really, we're not anywhere near close to a statutory debt limit, but in terms of state law, because there are state laws that govern, there is a state law that governs the limit of the amount of debt that the town could incur, but that's something like $180 million or something like that. It's based on the town's tax base. The issue that we have is the limitations are under Proposition 2.5 for funding our budgets. And then supposing everybody agrees that we should only have debt excluded debt and everybody approves debt, the limitation is really just a policy-based limitation to not incur debt that's going to push the annual debt service over 10% of the town's budget. So that's a self-imposed limit, but it's a big increase in a cost that, the debt in the years past has gotten down to about 3% of the town's budget. So as we, incur more debt and have to pay for more of it, it will be felt, the expense of paying the debt service in the future. So it's more of a self-imposed limit than anything else, if that answers the question.
Well, and I understand what you're saying, but I think at some point, right, the rating agencies are going to look at the amount of debt that we have relative to the revenues that we are bringing in, and could move us from a AA rating down to a single A, which has...
So we got rated for this last bond that we had, and they upheld our AA1 rating. And the AA1's a very good rating with Moody's. And the things that we were AAA in a lot of rating categories, and the things that we were AA in were our liabilities, and that includes our not just debt, but the liabilities include the post-employment benefits and the pension. So that we're trying to address, but we want to make sure that we continue funding those and we stay on target to pay those off. And then the other was our reserves. And again, I think we have healthy reserves. We have somewhere between 8 and 12% of the annual budget every year, but they look at it a little differently, and they're rating municipalities and cities, towns and counties, state governments. They're rating places across the country. And Massachusetts, we don't necessarily need to carry. We have a strong tax base in Massachusetts with property values. So we don't necessarily need to carry as much reserves on our books for emergencies and so forth. So they look at our fund balance of keeping 8 to 12%. And their category there is their rating category is 25%. So we're quite a few $1 million off of making 25% in terms of that measure. So again, like I said, those liabilities, that's one of them, and the amount of debt that the town has plays into that. But I mean, we'll likely uphold our double. I'm making a long tangential point to say that we'll probably maintain our AA1 rating if we incur more debt.
Jason, is there anything coming off the debt in the next year or two that's going to help us?
Yeah. I mean, nothing supremely large. Where the nature of declining debt, and like when we issue debt the way that we do, we make the way debt gets broken out in bonds is we make a level principal payment every year, and then the interest declines over time. So the debt issue over time, the annual debt service declines. And the thought is that we will continue investing in assets for the town, and that will add more debt. So over time, it levels out as we're issuing new debt. The other debt is declining. So there's nothing dramatic that's dropping off. But one example being the Algonquin project. 2027 is the last year for the debt service for that project, and that was like an astronomically at the time large project. It was 60-something million dollars back in 2000, and we're finally getting to the end of that, and that's about $600,000 of debt service, or it's a debt assessment from the school district. So that's dropping off, but at the same time, the Algonquin athletic complex is starting. The Algonquin's the Ad-Ren project, the $600,000 was debt excluded, so that doesn't affect our tax capacity. It's still tax impact for taxpayers, but it doesn't affect our Proposition 2.5 limitations. But yeah, there's nothing huge that's dropping off this year or next year, but we have that all modeled. That's part of doing the exercise of modeling the projections
thank you.
out to the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should,
Like I said, we were close to the 10% when doing it, using $50 million as the estimate for Peasley School. But if we add in the Z roof, is that going to be materially a change to that measure? Probably not.
should the Z project be approved at town meeting, are we going to go out to a long bond on this or a 10-year? What's the expectation? Or do you have one today?
I would expect 20 years for a roof.
20? Okay. All right. Anything else? Draft of our committee report. Jason, I put a draft together last month. I sent it to you. I don't know if you had a chance to do anything with it yet?
I didn't, and like I said, I was waiting to kind of see where this plan crystallizes so that we can do these more in-depth
Okay.
measures with the debt.
I've got something that's about 30-some odd pages long. It has all the articles in there, among other things. There are some sections that are rough that have to be swapped out. Things, just narrative on the free cash flow and narrative on things like the White Cliffs articles. So it's rough, but it needs work, and we've got to get cracking at this because we've only got a couple more meetings to gel this together and get it into a working state before we decide to take a vote on things.
I would recommend that we send out a draft as it is now.
Okay.
So that we all can get up to speed on it.
All right.
And understand somehow you're gonna have to highlight or mark that things that are really volatile or subject to a lot of change, fluid.
I'll get that out tomorrow, copy everybody. And again, my cover email will give you an idea of, the method to the madness, what's in here. So there's page numbers in here. It starts at page 42. Disregard that, because it's going to be somewhere in the back of the warrant book. The warrant articles don't have numbers on them. We'll have to put that in there, as well as the priorities and the, we'll have to take a close look at the narratives that are in here already. And I pulled that out of what the departments gave us in their proposing these projects. So it may need some wordsmithing. You may disagree with some of it. We'll need.
It's a good starting point.
It's a starting
It's a
place,
starting
yeah.
point.
It's a straw man. So we'll get that out tomorrow. Public comment. We have no one in the room from the public. Anyone in the virtual world from the public with comments? Please raise your hand virtually if you do. Going once, going twice. Seeing that, no public comments. Any other business? Future meetings, our next meeting is February 5th, a Thursday. The meeting after that is the 19th, a Thursday. Among other things, I would hope by the 5th, we have a chance to go through the report at least once together and get your comments and markups, and then start to modify that. And I would hope that by the end of the month, February that is, would be in a position to start to take a vote.
Based on open meeting laws, you're gonna send out the first draft tomorrow. If Jason works on an approved draft, he can send that to all of us, right? And also get it in to the town clerk as a public record. So
Jason, comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's fine. If John were to send out the draft now, and if folks had comments that they want to send back, if they send them back to me, we're not precluding discussion about it at the next meeting, so there's no open meeting law issue with that. Like if you send your individual comments to me and not to the
I wasn't talking about comments, I was talking about you
integrate them
updating
together and
another
then,
version.
bring it back to discuss it with the edits.
But I was talking about you updating a version and sending it out before our public meeting.
Right, I think that would be okay. I
Okay.
mean, our intent
would
is
hope
to
so.
discuss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just making sure, I don't wanna have any.
No,
vote
I
loss.
agree,
At the
I
end.
agree. So we'll provide our individual comments back to Jason. He'll amalgamate them in the next iteration and get that out before the next meeting. Sounds like a plan. Any other business?
I
Chairman, I
just
make
share
a-
that the appropriations meeting starting their cycle, talking about the operating budgets as well, next week. That's next Tuesday, starting at 6 o'clock, if anybody wants to tune in.
I'll
The-
probably
the
sit
police
in.
department's the first
probably sit in on
department
that.
to meet with them.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn our meeting at 7:40?
7:43.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all. Steph, Jason, thank you.